Good morning, my friend. Today we're going to do lesson 25 for wit and wisdom. So let's get started. I'm going to share my screen behind me so we can get started. All right. Now, what do sensory words describe? Well, actually, sensory words describe how people experience things through their senses. Okay, remember your five senses: sight, touch, smell, hearing, and tasting. Okay. If I read the sentence here, in spring, white flowers frosted a tree. What does frosted mean there? Well, I think frosted means covered, like how frosting covers a cake, right? But frost could also mean it's white and icy. Now, in summer, I'm going to read the next one. In summer, when the tree bent with ripening fruit. Why do you think the tree is being bent for? Well, do you think the tree is being bent because its limbs were heavy or full of fruit? Well, it says it's bent with ripening fruit, so I bet that fruit is really heavy and pulling it down, isn't it? Now, close your eyes, and I want you to imagine this part. In the autumn, means fall, when leaves from the tree blew out the courtyard like scraps of sunshine. What do you think the leaves looked like there? Scraps means small, so I think there were small leaves, but the sunshine is bright, so I think the leaves were probably bright yellow. So in this, we just examined sensory words that the author used to help us imagine a scene. So let's look at a page from our book. I'm just going to show it to you. Okay. You see the picture and the words. Okay. I'm going to have to take it away so you can see what we're talking about. What besides the words on the page can help you learn about the story? What else did you see? Well, I saw pictures or illustrations on the page that can help us better understand what we're reading also. So our focus question is, why do people admire Adelita and Pear Blossom? Our content framing is, what does a deeper exploration of the illustrations reveal in the Korean Cinderella? So today we're going to be looking at pictures. So we're going to analyze the illustrations, the pictures. So I'm going to read page 42. It's the illustrator's note. And I'm going to read the last paragraph to you. It says, the information for these illustrations was gathered in Korea at museums and palaces, at festivals and concerts, and at a village set up to replicate the way Korean people lived 300 years ago. Wow. Okay. Now, how does that illustrator's note help readers understand information about the time and place the story happens? Well, the illustrator, he went to the places in Korea to get information for these illustrations, didn't he? There's a lot of symbols in the illustrations, and I believe the illustrator studied about the way Korea was 300 years ago to make these illustrations. Let's look at handout 25A. And what we're going to do is we're going to look through the book and find these illustrations, okay? So 25A looks a lot like this. I'm going to share my screen with you. So it's these picture cards here, okay? So we're going to look for a few of these illustrations. So I'm going to turn this off back here, find my controller. I'm going to stop sharing for the moment. That way you can see the page. All right. Actually, I do need to share, don't I? Because actually, we are looking for that certain pattern. So if I go through the story and look for those circle patterns, and I'm looking through, here. Has a lot of patterns in it. Lots and lots of patterns. Okay, I found the wedding ducks. They're over here on that page. So there's the two ducks. I'm still looking for the hanbok. So if I go back, and it looks like a dress, I would say a hanbok, the dress. Okay. And then it says a horsehair hat. A horsehair hat. And remember at the beginning, her father put on a horsehair hat. There's that. All right. We won't look up any more because that may take some more time, but do you understand what we're talking about? We're looking at the illustrations. Okay. So let's get back to our board up front. So we have to be detectives when we are looking for pictures like that. All right, so now I'm going to read pages 3 and 4. I'm going to show it to you first. Okay, and you've looked at it. Okay, I'm going to read it. It says, both the tree and the child grew lovelier with each passing season. In spring, white flowers frosted the tree, and Pear Blossom wore a white ribbon on her long black braid. In summer, when the tree bent with ripening fruit, Pear Blossom's mother wove a band of rosy gold into her hair. In the autumn, when leaves from the tree blew about the courtyard like scraps of sunshine, her mother dressed Pear Blossom in a yellow gown. But one winter day, when the branches on the pear tree were still bare, the old woman died. Iago, wailed the old man, who will tend Pear Blossom now? So what did you notice about those illustrations on that? Now look at the illustrations again. Okay, well, I noticed there were 4 pictures of the pear tree. I also noticed the pear tree changes in spring, summer, fall, and winter. I also noticed that Pear Blossom is in different clothes. But Pear Blossom changes clothes each time the pear tree changes too. Okay, well, let's look at page 37 and 40 now. 37 through 40. So I'm going to show you the pictures. Okay. Okay. Now I'm going to read this page. When springtime, the magistrate sent a go-between to Pear Blossom's old father to arrange a grand marriage. Pear Blossom's wedding slippers were of silk and in the courtyard of her splendid new house. A dozen pear trees bloomed. Ewa, ewa, chirped the sparrows in the branches. Ewa, croaked the giant frog down below. That is as it was long ago, and as it should be, for in Korea, Ewa means pear blossom. Okay. So now, what do you notice about those illustrations? Well, I noticed in this that the pear trees are blooming again. I also noticed there are lots of pear trees with flowers at her new house. And Pear Blossom and the magistrate have pear blossoms all around them on their wedding day. Wow. Okay. Well, how do illustrations of the pear tree at the beginning of the book compare to the illustrations of the pear tree at the end of the story? Well, remember at the beginning of the story, the pear tree has flowers, but then the branches are bare. Excuse me. And at the end, the pear tree blooms again. The pear tree has blossoms in the beginning and at the end. In the beginning, the pear tree is with Pear Blossom as a child, and at the end, the pear tree is with her as an adult. The pear tree in the beginning goes through all the seasons and changes, and at the end, the pear tree just looks like it does in the spring with flowers. So it could mean a lot of different things, couldn't it? So what is happening to Pear Blossom at the beginning of the story on page 3 and 4? Do you remember? It says in the beginning that Pear Blossom becomes lovelier with each season. And Pear Blossom has her mother to help care for her until the winter, doesn't she? And then in the winter, she dies. But then if we go to page 7 and 40, like we read a few minutes ago, at the end, Pear Blossom gets married to the magistrate. And Pear Blossom is with her husband, magistrate, in a new house. Okay, so now let's let's look at our introduction and conclusion, the craft question. How do I write an introduction and a conclusion for an opinion paragraph? It says to hand out 24B. Okay. So let's look at 24B. So I'm going to share my screen with you. We're going to go to 24B. Let me get rid of all these things up here so I can find 20. Oh, I'm looking for it, friends. 24B. Okay, our focus question task are 3 evidence organizer. Okay. Now, on this, I guess you need to see my cookie. Actually, you've got the cookie at the top of your page. If you notice, you have the opinion sentence at the top, you have your reasons in the middle, and you have your opinion conclusion at the bottom. All righty. So let's orally rehearse an introduction, and we can write it on this handout too. So the introduction could be something, or actually you chose it the last time. You were supposed to pick who did you admire the most, Pear Blossom or Adelita. So now today, when you read your sentence, your introduction, remember that in your introduction, you could always say, we read the story, and you could pick Adelita or Pear Blossom, or you could say, Pear Blossom is a character in Korean Cinderella. You could say Adelita is a character in Adelita, or Esperanza is a character in Adelita. And then your opinion statement, that's where you're practicing there. That should say your opinion statement, okay, friends? On your opinion statement, that's where you can say, I think Adelita is what? Or I think Pear Blossom is what? Remember, you're using your traits that we talked about yesterday. And then once you've chosen that trait, you're supposed to write a reason why you think they are that way. Either hardworking, kind, honest, you decide whatever reason. And you've got to tell me why you chose that. Okay? And then in your opinion conclusion at the bottom, you're just going to reinforce your opinion. That means that is why blank, or this shows blank. So you're just restating your opinion statement. So just practice writing and saying your introduction, your opinion statement, your reason, and so forth. Hold on, my friends. So you are writing that, okay? All right, so I'm going to stop sharing. Okay, so let's go back up here to our screen. So our content framing, what does a deeper exploration of the illustrations reveal in the Korean Cinderella? And what did you examine closely today? Think about what did we examine today? We looked at the illustrations, didn't we? We looked at the pictures throughout the story. What is something new that you uncovered in the illustrations that you didn't notice before? Well, you know what? I noticed that the pear tree was the same at the beginning, at the end of the story too. And I noticed that a hanbok is a dress, which I didn't know. Our fluency check-in. So let's check on our fluency. I'm going to share my screen again with you. I'm doing a lot of sharing today because we have a lot of things to share. Okay, our fluency. Remember, it's the one we've been practicing. Amoni found fault as soon as she stepped into the kitchen. Too cold, fire's gone out. Would Pear Blossom be quick? Pear Blossom gathered sticks and fed the stove until the lid on the kettle danced from steam. Too hot, the noodles are scorching. Get water, Pear Blossom, be quick. Both Amoni and Peony were jealous of Pear Blossom, and the harder she worked, the happier they were. Each day, Pear Blossom was up before the sun. She cooked and cleaned until midnight with only the crickets for company. Okay, and then the next one. We add a little bit more to that one. I went a little bit too far. Okay, narrator. Amoni found fault as soon as she stepped into the kitchen. Too cold, the fire's gone out. Fetch wood, Pear Blossom, be quick. Pear Blossom gathered sticks and fed the stove until the lid on the kettle danced from steam. Too hot, the noodles are scorching. Get water, Pear Blossom, be quick. Both Amoni and Peony were jealous of Pear Blossom, and the harder she worked, the happier they were. Each day, Pear Blossom was up before the sun. She cooked and cleaned until midnight with only the crickets for company. But nothing could hide Pear Blossom's beauty. At night, Amoni lay sleepless, searching for an excuse just to get rid of her stepdaughter. That's sad, isn't it? It is. So I am going to stop sharing, and we're back up here. All right. So let's look at this, our deep dive today. Today, we're going to sort some words from the text into two different groups. Now, sorting words can help readers understand the words better so they can use them in their writing and understand them in your reading. So if you look at these words, you have honey candy, cabbage, frog, sparrow, barley, turnips, sugar, and black ox. What kind of groups could we sort those words into? Well, I'm thinking maybe animals because I see some animals up here. And I also see food up there. So let's check out what we've got. We've got animals and we've got food. Okay. Now, sorting these into the two groups will help us learn more about these words and the groups they belong to. Learning more about words helps us to work in our writing better and understand them when we read them in books. So let's look at these words. You have honey candy. Where would honey candy go? It'd go under food, wouldn't it? What about cabbage? Go under food also. What about frog? It's not a food, so it's an animal. So you'd lay it under animal. I'm going to let you do the rest of them because this is a worksheet that you're supposed to do and turn in also, okay? So let me move my things back. All right, guys, that is the end of this lesson, and I will see you back here tomorrow, guys. Bye.